it looks like when you're like looking through CVs and you're seeking for the nationality of the person you've never even met or spoken to determine whether they will have a good accent. Let's see where they're from. And then you're like projecting what they might sound like in your mind. Or it might look like you're simply looking at the name of someone. Now, for academic managers, for recruiters, right? What happens is we often say, and some people have this policy, some countries have the policy of not including a picture of the person on the CV, or not saying what nationality they are. Like, but my name, for instance, it would give away that I'm Armenian because all Armenian surnames end in IAN. So what am I to say about that? So and my name is not spelled in the traditional way. It's actually MERI. So if you take away all those things, and like my name is still going to say a lot about me, isn't it? Just like there are a lot of Trojan horses, I call them, where non-native speaking teachers adopt or take their husband's names, or they change their last name, and then or they become they change something about the whole aspect, and then they can actually fight the system from within. And I know of these people. So there's a lot of things that are hidden, or you might not conceive or perceive as a way of like discriminating against others, but there absolutely are. And you need to own up to that, because it happens to everyone. It's how you react to it. So you can maybe control your thoughts until you are aware of your thoughts, and then later you can kind of fight the systemic bias that is in you. You might also be thinking it could be something that is internalized with you as a non-native speaker, when you're thinking that you're not good enough, right? Even though you know that you have XYZ qualifications and you can actually do that, you might actually think that English language or native English speakers are better than you, and you can only do so much. That's also another thing that is biased, right? So it might also look like, for example, you're looking for experience abroad from your non-native English, applicants, because you're like, if they've lived in London or if they've lived in, the UK, they might be good. They might, just because. So as if proximity to nativeness is going to make them better qualified, right? So as I was saying, that this defeating systemic bias or raising awareness isn't enough. And I've been speaking about this a lot until we were doing a webinar like this, and someone said, I was talking a lot about it, and they said, oh, you need to kind of look at, you need to layer this, because it's like too much and there's too much to take in. And so I came up with this idea of, why don't I first talk about accents? So let's learn about accents and let's overcome stereotypes in accents. And we're going to look at that in a second. Then I thought, okay, but let's look at like the methodology. How do we teach as teachers? What methodologies do we, what are the approaches or the beliefs that we have behind teaching English, and how do those methodologies reflect the approach that we have? And are they in fact the right ones, or are they outdated? Because up until 2001, the CFR descriptors had the native speaker as their ideal goal and their metric to evaluate students and learners based on how well a native speaker would understand them. Okay, you see where I'm coming from? So we needed to understand that most of the methodology that we have and we're looking into, I mentioned some of it, but there's a lot. I covered in the second training, I cover everything on methodologies and approaches through the decades, and we cover like 100 years of all the approaches and how they were actually within the historical context influenced by the native speaker ideal. And once you know that, you kind of think, okay, why am I doing things the way that I'm doing these things, right? Is there something that I can change with the knowledge that I have today, how things were done? I'm not saying come up with your own belief or approach, but use what you know today to improve what was done before. Sounds very like a catchphrasey kind of thing. It's a good thing I'm recording this. Anyway, and number 3, take ownership and massive action through teaching. So once you do come to the conclusion of, okay, this is how methodologies are outdated. These are how our approaches have changed. How about I now change the way I teach? Okay, where do you start? Right? And for me, it's about teaching global pronunciation. It's not about, I'm laughing because every time I feel like I'm taking a blow or a punch at someone I know in the ELT industry. It's not about accent friendly pronunciation. Like that's kind of like a way to confront things from an angle that is very soft, very soft. We need to take into account that the learners are multilingual and they already have been acquainted and know one language. And this is the second language, the additional language that they're learning. And when we're talking about teaching them pronunciation, it has to reflect what they hear outside of everything, outside of the specific location that they're in, but also leverage what they have where they are and then expand into depending on what context you're teaching. So I'm not going to give you specific scenarios, but if I'm teaching someone English in Italy, in Parma, I'm going to use everything I have to kind of build on that and not pretend that I need to teach them about English culture and English pronunciation or British pronunciation or RP when they have no interest whatsoever to go work, leave, go abroad or all these things. So I have to take into account a lot of things. And so therefore, with the third module that I did on teaching global pronunciation, this comes with like 15 activities, 5 for primary, 5 for secondary students, and 5 for adult learners, where they're editable and adjustable according to your own context. And they give you like the start, they give you that initial kind of push of going in there and not shying away from pronunciation, because a lot of non-native English teachers shy away because they have been told what we will defeat in steps 1 and 2 about accent and the approaches, etc., etc. So we're going to abandon basically in module 2 basically everything that has to do or that is ingrained in imperialism, colonialism, and look at the historical context through which methodologies have developed throughout. So we make informed decisions. But here we go. In the accentism module, like we talk a lot about what is an accent and how it differs from pronunciation. And you have a definition here, which I'm not going to read again for lack of time, but I want you to reflect on the fact that certain accents up until today, and it will probably be like this for a very, very long time, they're viewed as prestigious and some are viewed as undesirable. And these are based on societal biases. I was just at the shop. I went into a Chinese shop here in Parma, and this guy, older guy, got his watch repaired, or no, I think it was his car keys. And the woman, like, it was a Chinese lady. She did everything for him. He wasn't able to use his toolkit to do anything. So she actually substituted the batteries, and everything inside. And he was like, oh, and it's not true that Chinese people don't understand things, he said, or that they don't speak Italian well. Like, this is why I'm so passionate about this, because everywhere you look, there's someone saying something so racist, so judgmental, so I can't even begin. But you get it, right? It's like, why are we, just because she speaks Italian, she probably speaks Italian better than you with an accent, but she speaks one of the hardest languages as well, and you are patronizing her with your remark about how well she understands. Listen, man, like, you couldn't even substitute your batteries. Like, shush, shush, for lack of a better expression that I can say online. Anyway, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about prestige accents. Societal biases around accents are often tied to perceptions of social class,